In 1918, 4 families talked about establishing a parish in North Collinwood. The vision of Charles Farrell, Michael Keyes, John Doyle, and Andrew Knoll brought the idea to St. Joseph of Collinwood pastor Father John Bell. Father Bell petitioned Bishop John Fairley on September 12, 1918, and wrote the following letter. Most Reverend Bishop, it is in my opinion that something should be done to secure a site for a future church and school on the north side of the New York Central Tracks. The section is growing rapidly and desirable sites will soon be built upon. I have made inquiries about the value of real estate in this section. The cost will be high, from $20,000 to $30,000 according to locality. There will be no need of erecting a building until after the war, but I think a site should be selected. Yours sincerely, John Bell. World War I was over, and Bishop Fairley secured the property title from the Shoreacres Land Company for $16,000. He then appointed Father Leo Hammer in September of 1919 to organize the parish located on Lakeshore Boulevard. Father Hammer was Father Bell's assistant at St. Joseph of Collinwood, and he knew the North Collinwood parishioners well. They went to work right away. Father Hammer purchased a large tent, and October 5, 1919, at 8 a.m., the first Mass of St. Jerome Parish was held. Days later, ground was broken on the new church. The tent did not last long. On Thanksgiving Day, a bad storm collapsed the tent, and Mass was held in unfinished parts of the church. The church was completed in October of 1920 for a cost of $40,000, with seating for up to 600 people. The parish building plans continued. In the spring of 1922, construction began on the 11-room school that was run by the Ursuline Sisters of Villa Angela. It opened in September of that year to 250 students of the parish.
I've been a part of St. Jerome's my whole life. I was baptized here in 1927. We had Mass in here every day during school.
We would come to Mass in the morning before you went to school. And you learned to kneel properly, thanks to the nuns, and you were quiet. And it became a part of your life. It was the way it started.
In 1925, at the same cost of the church, a brick pastoral residence was built. In 1937, an additional 4 classrooms, known as the Annex, was added to the school that now had 650 students.
When I started at St. Jerome's, I started in what's called the Annex. They built 4 new classrooms. And I was in the first classroom that was built in '37. They were full, with 50 or 60 kids in every age, every class.
Monsignor Hammer announced in March of 1942 that the parish was now debt-free, and all revenue coming forward will be set aside for a new church.
I remember being in grade school right next door here and watching them jack up the old wood-framed church, and they moved it to the back end of the property here where the convent now stands, in order to open up this piece of ground to build a new church on.
I remember coming to St. Jerome's Church when I was only 3 years old with my mom and my sister. We were Slovenian, so we belonged to St. Mary's, but St. Jerome's was closer.
This mosaic on the back wall is of God, and there's no other churches in the diocese that has God as their main feature in the church.
When I first walked into this church, I thought maybe it was like a cathedral, you know?
You always were felt welcome by the other parishioners here, and I was very comfortable with that.
My first impression was how friendly the people were.
You know, when you go into a new place, you wonder, will the people accept you? And the first thing I noticed was how I was accepted right away. I mean, that was special.
I love the people, and the people are St. Jerome's.
If you don't feel welcome here, I don't know where you could go that you would feel as welcome.
It seems like the minute we came here, we walked in and there was such a warmth, such like feeling like we're home, and it's continued.
Years ago I went on a retreat, and the retreat, one of the priests said, you have to go where you will be nourished, and St. Jerome continues to nourish me.
Well, it's my sweet home.
Monsignor Hammer, I can remember him. He was a very tall man. I guess when you're 9, 10 years old, he was he was 6 feet something.
Monsignor Hammer, to me, was 7 feet tall at least.
He knew everybody, and he knew if you were at Mass or not.
He was one tough Irishman. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Powerful influence, a little bit of hell and fire and brimstone.
I remember one time he said, you could have all the wealth on earth and be happy here on earth, but maybe you're going to go to hell. I said, oh, Lord.
Right, that's not my style, but it was his style, and I suppose to a degree it worked.
Monsignor would walk up and down the aisles before Mass, especially on Sunday. He would greet you with a nod. And as you know, he was tall, and with all his vestments, he was an impressive man.
Father Cole was a very generous person. He was a very good priest. He had a mission, ministry for the sick, the shut-in. He was a manly priest. He was a very good example.
And Father Cole was a big difference from Father Hammer. A little more warm and fuzzy for everybody here.
He had this wonderful speaking voice, and he spoke slowly, and he just had a grace and presence about him that was just really wonderful.
He was sort of showing me the ropes for a couple of weeks, and then unfortunately he died about 3 weeks after I got here. So that was something I hadn't planned on. And then at the funeral, Father Cole, which was here, Bishop Hickey said, "You're now the pastor." That was it. So I was in line to take over when Father Cole died, but I hadn't expected it would be a matter of weeks.
Father Walsh is amazing. He's just an absolute wonder. He's funny. He's, very spiritual man, but he's got a great sense of humor.
He and I got along well because he went to St. Ignatius and I went to St. Ignatius.
We're blessed that he's able to be here and be such a vibrant part of the parish.
I was scared when he left, I got to tell you. But then we had Father Heron come in, did a magnificent job.
Father Walsh, even though he wasn't here, a lot of times I could talk to him and clue me in if I was making some mistakes.
Father Heron was instrumental not only here at St. Jerome's following through on our Holy Name Society, but he's the diocesan spiritual director of the Holy Name Society.
Father Heron became pastor here in June of '93, and in January of 1994, we were on a bus to D.C.
Father Heron got me the job over here before he left.
He was very easy to work with, very nice.
He was very personable when you got to know him.
He was a very good friend, a good priest.
The friendliness of the people here was very, very something. There was something very, very special. The bishop knew because of his illness he was limited in what he could do, and yet the bishop had that trust in him. And I know the people were overjoyed because he became pastor, and I was proud that I'd been with him all those years.
People that are hearing God's call, such as Father Cassés for his calling when he made his first communion, that he realized at 7 years old that he wanted to be a priest.
He was not supposed to live into adulthood, probably not even to teenage. Yeah, it was amazing.
And the time you spend with him, you wouldn't know that he even had an illness.
Sort of brought home how fragile life is and how much he did with his life, and I think he did a really great job at what he did.
He's not afraid to ask you to do anything. He asked me to do his laundry. I almost flipped when I did that. And
we all know the health condition that he had, and his passion, his commitment here was incredible.
The years with him in the rectory were fabulous. I mean, we'd read the paper, we'd laugh. You had, I'm going to choke up because I loved him so much.
When you think of St. Jerome's, you think of Deacon Pete.
I have admired him, the work he puts in, the sacrifices.
He loves this neighborhood. He loves his family. It's St. Jerome's and his family are intertwined to the point there's no separation. I mean, he lives and breathes St. Jerome's.
We've had many opportunities that the deacon has been asked by other priests to maybe think about transferring out to their parish, but we decided that this was our home and this is where we would stay.
To see Deacon Pete and all the wonderful work that he does here, we're truly blessed. We really are.
I've just been assigned with some great deacons, and Pete is one of them. During my leave, he ran the parish very, very well. He's kind of my right-hand man, and I am blessed to have him. He's a good homilist, he's a good minister, and I couldn't be more blessed. I grew up in this neighborhood. I spent the first 13 years of my life on East 170th Street, just off of Grovewood. And I remember being fascinated by the priest on the altar, which was usually Monsignor Hammer, and the robes, and I was mesmerized by that. I thought this was the grandest church in the world. I think maybe my vocation to the priesthood was born in this church.
There was a sentiment here in Collinwood to close St. Jerome.
It was very tough. It was not easy, and it was a tough situation that all four parishes were trying to discern exactly what was going to transpose as far as this is concerned.
And the parishioners rallied, I think, and Mike Balencic, the councilman, went to bat for all four parishes in the Collinwood area.
But I made it very clear to Bishop Lennon that we're going to go to war if you close this parish.
I told my wife I heard that this church might merge or close down. I need a merger, you know. I told her I think I quit going to church if they would close this church down.
The thought of not being able to be open, that hurt.
I think there would have been heck to pay if that would have happened.
We knew that the letter was coming by courier, and he was over at the rectory and I was in the the school office doing paperwork of some kind, and they delivered it to the school. And I forced myself not to open it because we were all dying to know. And I walked it back over to the rectory, and he was sitting in the sunroom. And I gave him the envelope and kissed him on the forehead and told him, I don't know what this says, but we love you and remember that.
When the letter was read by Father Casses, and it was a full church. I think there was standing room only here in this church on that day that Father Casses read that letter. And he slowed down around the part where he says, all four parishes will remain the same.
Yeah, the roof almost came off. People were so excited.
We stood up and applauded when they said the church was going to stay open.
And I don't recall the name of the gentleman that sat near us, but that man sobbed. He sobbed. He was so happy and just taken aback, that it's over, finally.
It was a big sigh of relief. I think not only for myself, but all the other parishioners.
There was tribute to the spirit and strength of people that love their parish, and they really showed it.
It's a wonderful, wonderful parish, and the history of this parish and the fantastic leadership that this parish has had from Monsignor Hammer all the way up to Father Bill today. You know, it's been a wonderful time.
This church influenced me in a big way. So, and for that I'm thankful, and I hope that in the future that the kids and the people that go to this church or to this school are thankful also.
Thank you for helping us grow up to be young adults in Christ, and thank you for teaching us and giving us the means to kind of give the lessons that we've learned back to the kids and even to people who aren't part of the church. It's impacted us in more ways than one.
I'm glad to be part of it. This is something special.
St. Jerome's, 100 years is a long time. St. Jerome's is still standing, and I hope it's standing for another 100 years.
Congratulations, 100 years, and may you have another 100.
Thank you, dear Father God, for 100 years of this place and these people. And may we keep going.
God bless everyone, all the members of St. Jerome. Look forward to doing it another 100 years.
I probably will not be around in another 100 years, but I would hope that y'all pass this faith and this enthusiasm and this caring to the next generations to keep St. Jerome alive and well and meeting the spiritual and physical needs of our neighborhood.
It's been a wonderful ride, and we're going to continue. This is beautiful.
And so, St. Jerome's, as you gather together at this gala, I want to extend my congratulations to you, and I pray that what has happened in these first 100 years will not only continue, but will grow to be even stronger, a stronger faith community, so that Collinwood knows that the church is alive, that Jesus is alive and present and living among them.
Thank you. Thank you for 100 years of true Christian belief and support for this community. God bless St. Jerome's.
Congratulations, everybody at St. Jerome Church, for a beautiful 100 years. May God be with you for the next 100 years and even beyond that.